Something written about you sitting in there with some other handsome guys
and
going, oh, I don't have a chance.
I wasn't sitting in there. I did the audition, and I actually forgot my lines 12 times.
Oh.
In the audition. Now, sometimes...
How did you get a callback?
You sort of over-prepare and you're sitting outside, and it's always for the parts you want, but you go in there and the producer and director and Saoirse Ronan, I suddenly got nervous. Forgot the lines 12 times. Then, fortunately, it started to go really well. So I came out of the room going, I'm not sure, I don't know how that went. I don't know if I'm going to get a good impression. But then there was a thing leaked online which my friend sent me, which had 6 names for both Jared and Ian. And some of them were big hitters, you know, all muscly and sort of American handsome looking, tans, that kind of thing. And I thought, why are they going to cast me? I'm English and skinny.
But you're living underground, so that's okay if you're not tan.
That was the only inconsistency in the book, I thought. They all lived underground and they ate nothing but wheat, and yet they were all built like tanks.
Don't forget the canned goods.
Because that's the key to a healthy diet.
So what concept did you like about the script on this and the story that kind of intrigued you to want to be in it?
Well, I think the idea of a kind of benevolent human alien invasion is something that we don't often see. It's always the White House and the Empire State Building being blown up in spectacular fashion. But you know, the idea that it's already won, they've won, we are no longer at the top of the food chain. I think it throws up some interesting questions about how we as humans conduct ourselves. We get a lot of questions, Team Ian, Team Jared. You know. Of course we do, but I think the more interesting question is Team Human, Team Alien. And I think Andrew does it in such a way, and Stephenie's written it in such a way that at the end of the film, it's sort of 50-50.
Well, when you signed up for this, did you have any concerns or hesitation that this would be, you know, compared to the whole Twilight thing? And, you know, considering what happened with the trio there in terms of being stalked by the paparazzi everywhere they go, was that any concern of yours of becoming that kind of, you know, phenomenon, that kind of fame, you know?
So I there's so many different ways to answer this. I'll try and answer in a few different ways quickly. One, when I did a film called Red Riding Hood, I was told by a lot of people that that's the next Twilight. It wasn't. I saw an article in the New York Times which had the title was, which of these 12 films is going to be the next Twilight? Now there was a list, Hunger Games, Beautiful Creatures, The Host, there's a load of them. And the only common denominator between them was that they had a sort of young cast, and it was fictitious. That was the only common denominator. I think Twilight was unique to itself. There was already a hype before the camera started even rolling. The Host has support, but not on the same level. And when I saw Stephenie Meyer's name on the script, I was hesitant instantly, because Red Riding Hood, amongst many others, had tried to replicate the formula that Stephenie has bottled somewhere. So I thought maybe she's tried to do it again here. But I was sort of relieved to discover that The Host, I think, is a step up in terms of writing, without meaning to sound patronising. But also, I think
there's more at stake, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot more ideas.
For a lot more people.
For a lot more people. It's not just one big demographic, but it's a lot of demographic. I think a lot of people could enjoy this film.
Okay.
What was that? So that was one. What was the other two things that you said?
Well, I think it was the Red Riding Hood one, the constant comparisons to Twilight, the other, and my hesitancy at seeing Stephenie's name. But people are more fascinated by the phenomenon.
Saying that you had kind of the trickiest of the roles to play because of, you know, what you have to believe about her and not, and so forth. And I was just wondering for you, what did you like about your character, or was there, you know, what was the attraction to this?
Well, Andrew had called me the day before I went to chemistry read with Saoirse, and he had said some stuff that I hadn't really thought about for Ian, because I initially went in for Jared. He said, "There's something to this interspecies love that I think is really interesting and I want to explore." And maybe creepy way.
Had you hung out with Max? Did you guys just kind of hang out to get to know each other or anything before you shot? Or first day on set, it's like,
no,
bye?
William Hurt luckily said, we are having 2 weeks of rehearsal. And that changed everything. I've never had that on a movie, and I will always fight for it if I can from here on out, because I don't think I could stand by this movie as much as I do without that rehearsal, because the things that were discovered that weren't just lying on the surface in that room, the relationships that were developed. I mean, we broke down. Everyone was there. Diane was there. and she gets to be the only soul, you know, in that room with us. We were able to sit there and like back and forth how she thought about us and we thought about her, what that meant, and it made this movie something that was more than just one of those YA films that feels thrown.
Were you a little concerned how they were going to do the inner voice, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that could be tricky. And you really did a great job of doing this. I mean, I don't know if any, you know, maybe another actress could have done it, but I mean, you really, you got the two characters, you know, there's definitely, they were distinguishable and everything. So, I mean, was that a concern of yours, and when did you feel comfortable that it was working?
It was something that I was worried. I wasn't worried about it, but it was a big question on my mind after I had read the script. Was how are we really going to make this work, and technically how is it going to work? Because at the time we didn't. It wasn't necessarily the case that we were going to use an earpiece or anything like that. But it worked very well from the off. We did Melanie's VO before we started shooting, and that was good for me, I think, to play Melanie, because VO was great anyway for just understanding the character. I'm sorry, my voice is completely gone. I'm a bit of a cold. But it helped me to really understand who she was, I think. So she was sorted out, and then when I came around to actually shooting, I think Wanda just kind of naturally came about, and it was fine. But I mean, kind of from the off, it worked, you know. I mean, there'd be times where the earpiece wouldn't work and the signal would go or something like that. But when it worked out properly, and in the you know, during a scene, I was essentially talking to myself. It was great.
Did pre-record all of Wanda was pre-recorded by
all of Melanie.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Melanie and Wanda. Yeah, it was all pre-recorded.
Yeah, we recorded it about a week before we started shooting, and it was just a rough recording, you know. But it was enough to get us through, and enough for me to be able to react to when we were on set. So that's what we did, and it worked.
You got to pick these two guys, basically, or help pick the two guys who were going to be with you. And what was it about each of these guys that you said, that's the one for that role? That's who I want to play that with me. There has to be something special about each that worked for their part.
Yeah. Well, I think, I was just going to call them Ian. They're so real for me.
Well, I keep getting them mixed up, so it's okay.
Jake was able to, he was great. His audition was, I think, after we had cast Max, because that was in LA. And he brought a real sensitivity to this role without it being soppy, you know, because it could easily be that. And there were a few people who were very good, but they came in and they were either, you know, almost didn't respond to Wanda at all because they were so sensitive towards her, or the opposite, and just kind of like too much. Whereas Jake really had the perfect balance there. And his audition was really great. It was, it was passionate, because Ian needs to still have that passionate love for her, but understands that it's kind of impossible for him to be with her for the rest of their lives. And he seemed to really have that understanding and that kind of passion through the audition, and it was brilliant. And I had met him before. He was in The Lovely Bones, so we had a scene together.
You were babies. You were younger.
Babies. Yeah. So I knew what he was like anyway. I knew he was lovely to work with. So, which is a very important thing for me. And also as well, going into it, you know, one of the things that I was very aware of was that I didn't want two guys to just be hired based on their looks. You know, I mean, obviously they needed to be attractive men, but they need to be good actors, you know, just as much as that. And so then when we saw Max as well, who I'd also met before, I knew how lovely he was. He did a brilliant audition as well, and it just felt right.